And somehow these kids have come up with the name called Lazarus Parties or Narcan Parties to bring them back from the dead. Once again, it's nothing that surprises me.
Don't Hide the Scars, a weekly podcast focused on addiction and recovery. Created by the nonprofit PAIN, Parents and Addicts in Need, and founded by Flindt Andersen.
Well, we're jumping into something heavy that you brought to my attention. I wasn't aware it existed in parents that need to know about this. This is happening. We've been told firsthand by a parent this is happening in our community, Lazarus Parties.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know what Lazarus is a biblical person who was raised from the dead by Christ. And somehow these kids have come up with the name called Lazarus Parties or Narcan Parties to bring them back from the dead. Once again, it's nothing that surprises me. It really isn't. I have read a couple of pieces on it that there are individuals out there stating that this is a hoax, that some people that have been counselors or therapists, even as much as 40 years, are discounting this, because they just can't understand why somebody would do that. But, 40 years of experience, guys, doesn't give you 10 minutes of experience as an addict.
Yeah, very valid point. Yeah, when you told me about this, I was disturbed, but not shocked.
Right.
Knowing that,
great way to put it.
Yeah, and I was really trying to break it down, as I've talked about here. For me, primarily alcoholism, my drug of choice. I mean, in the last 4 or 5 years, that's really all it was. And I was sitting and trying to compare this to myself. How's it any different than me at like 175, 180 pounds being like, oh, I can outdrink the 300-pound guy. Just watch. Subconsciously know my addiction. I'm far beyond this guy.
Right.
Or I'm going to try to, how's it any different? It's not.
It's not.
The addict mind. It's the disturbed place that we go. It is the illness, the disease of it.
It is, but I think it's also I know I keep blaming society for a lot of things, but it's the society we live in. Over all of my years, I mean, as teenagers, we all take chances, whether it's jumping off a roof into a swimming pool, whether it's driving, 90 miles an hour down a mountain road, swimming with sharks, whatever the case may be. And this is no different. This is still taking a chance. This is still having that Superman complex. It's still let's start the thrill seeking here and see how far we can take it. Because I honestly don't think this is a bunch of long-term addicts sitting around playing this quote game. That I don't think that's what it is at all. I think it's the younger generation, because this is who I heard it from. I think this is the younger generation. They're misinformed on Narcan, right? And so for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, they're using fentanyl to the point of overdose or as close to it as they can possibly get. And if they go over the line, then somebody is there that has been designated sober for the night to administer the Narcan to bring them back out of it. So with that said, if a long-term addict is playing this game, they know that if they're going to overdose and they're going to be brought back out of it, we've talked about this before, the first thing that's going to happen is that they are going to be thrown into major withdrawal symptoms. And there's not an experienced, quote, if that's the right word, or long-term addict that's going to go through that shit.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to get the fix quick.
You're going to want to get it fixed. You're going to want to get the fix quick. You're going to want to maintain the high. You're going to want to maintain the level of narcotic in you, so you're not going through that. So this tells me that this is more of a game that is being played by kids that just want to experience a high and experience maybe that near-death experience. And because overdose related calls are down, I guess we as a city is assuming that this is because of all of our good work.
Sure.
I think most of it is, but
I would agree. And but it also goes to show the ignorance of it too, that, they're overdosing, some naloxone, Narcan, as we call it, but it's what the medication is. It'll just bring them back. Well, it's not always the case, especially if it's a certain amount. You're going to need to administer oxygen, because the reality is, when this happens and you go in this overdose, you are cutting off oxygen to the brain.
Right.
So there's a potential, sure, you can Narcan them and they might come back, but you don't know how much oxygen was cut. And you're talking about serious, permanent, forever damage.
Absolutely.
Even if you can bring it back.
Absolutely.
Wait till the party that is there and you're doing one of these and someone doesn't come back.
Right. Right. And the brain damage that could be caused by it, that doesn't return. No. That doesn't return. So, and both you and I have heard from a couple of young people that they are taking these chances. They did it right out here at Blackstone and Shaw underneath the fentanyl 1 pill can kill sign, where they use underneath the sign, flip off the sign, don't care. They know we've been told this directly by young people that were in their addiction. By the way, the one person now is doing extremely well. But it was all a big finger to to all of us that are trying to make this aware, right? And so I don't even know how we stop it. I don't think this is running rampant. I don't think this is in every city in America, but I'll tell you what, I was just minding my own business today. I was somewhere this afternoon at lunch, and a friend of mine came up and said, "My daughter's told me this. Have you heard about this?" And of course, my first phone call was to my guys, with law enforcement, saying, "Have you heard of it?" And they said, "Of course." But for the people that are out there that are just simply dismissing this because they think it's absurd, in today's world, you can't dismiss anything. Simply can't. Because it's all free game.
Yeah. Yeah, you think all those movies about the 70s and 80s of people excessively using cocaine or heroin or whatever it is and them overdosing and dying is based on false occurrences? No, this is based and grounded in fact.
Yeah, exactly.
You've gone to more funerals than I wish to ask you about because of it. And it needs to be taken serious. And it's, like you said, we've done an amazing job of awareness between the work we're doing here. So many other organizations around the country, the globe, but there also comes a point where we got to understand that there's a greater issue going on with these young people. That
there is.
There is a drive to do these things.
There is. And here's what's interesting. This just came to mind. So again, this afternoon, we're going to go speak at the Boys and Girls Clubs of Fresno. And we did it on Monday. And I did several sessions with a bunch of kids, and there was this one young lady sitting in there who just had an attitude. I mean, just an attitude. Here's this old guy sitting there. He doesn't know anything about anything, and she was actually engaging. Not in a reality conversation, but her reality, right, of what I don't know. And I finally looked at her, and again, she's a 14-year-old, 15-year-old, whatever it was. And I said, "Young lady," I said, "I'm not even here to argue with you." I said, "I'm here to tell you what is going to happen if you decide to go down this road. I don't care if your parents are, I said, I don't care if your parents are here. I don't care about your teachers being here, the counselors that are here. You need to be quiet and you need to listen to what I'm telling you. Because this isn't a game anymore. This is simply not a game anymore. But my point to that is that kids haven't changed.
No.
That attitude has been since time immemorial.
Yeah.
And it's going to continue to be that attitude. We have to, we in the private sector, I think we have that ability to be able to say, hey, shut up when somebody needs to shut up. And we also have that ability that we don't really have to sugarcoat anything anymore.
Yeah. Because what good is it?
It's not going to do anybody any
good. These kids need more of that reality. I think that, we've seen it, we've talked about it, that kind of, bucking of authority, a lot of, we all go through that rebellious phase.
Of course we do.
I mean, just inherently, genetically, as humans at about 14 years old, some different chemicals and parts of the brain start to develop. That's what gets us out of the house.
Yeah.
That's what makes us go, I don't want to live with my parents. This is a life where I want to go.
Right.
But, more now than ever, I see it is they're turning their nose or middle finger to mentors of all kinds.
They are.
And I'm not sure where that distrust in an older generation has gone, what it is. I mean, I've got 2 teenagers. I somewhat see it and somewhat don't.
What you don't think in the 60s and 70s because I grew up in the 60s. I was born in the 50s. Okay. You don't think we had a disdain for the older generation back then? We led the charge in disdain against the older generation.
Good point.
I mean, what do these kids, what do they think this is something new?
I think.
Wow.
Sometimes I think.
Yeah.
I think every generation does. I think just as adults, one of my least favorite things that I hear adults still say sometimes, well, wait till you're my age and you'll know it's hard. No, life is hard at every phase.
Yeah.
Shut up, because you must be forgetting. You had a tough childhood with full of challenges. I had a tough childhood full of challenges. I think oftentimes people forget every phase of life is hard.
Yeah. Every
phase of life is a challenge. And, I sometimes I think there are younger people that maybe just carry that too. Like, it's tough to be a Flindt Andersen. It's tough to be a Jason LaChance. We have our challenges too. Everyone out there does. And so I think they, in addition to no prefrontal cortex that is not fully developed.
By the way, that means no brains. Right.
Action and consequence. Yeah. They're still very much in that adolescent phase of learning through play.
Yeah.
New Perceptions North, the premier drug and alcohol treatment and recovery center in Central California. A full continuum of medically supervised, top-quality care with programs for detox, inpatient residential treatment with dual diagnosis, intensive outpatient treatment, sober living, support groups, and more. With 50-plus years of combined experience and sobriety, Flindt Andersen and Thelma Gatlin Wilson provide adult men and women with the highest caliber of professional health care, treating each client with compassion and respect, and a safe, comfortable environment. To begin the process of recovery, to proudly create and sustain a life without addiction, call 559-978-1507 or visit newperceptionsnorth.com.
As adults, we continue to learn through play. I mean, you work with me that I'm on my computer trying, check this out. I figured out something new. You watching different speakers, trying to find new different ways. It's all play.
Sure.
And how we're going through learning. It's just this form of play. It's life and death, just like that.
Exactly. And again, like every generation, they don't think it's going to affect them. They simply don't think it's going to affect them. And that's just a part of life. Every kid's a pain in the ass. Every one of them, including us, right? We were pains in the asses to our parents and to authority. And it's almost like that's how it's meant to be. Again, it's this is nothing new, but you said it best. This is life and death, and that's simply what it's about now.
Well, and I think it's necessary in the part So you and I, it's kind of a little different with our stories. I was a late bloomer with it. Grew up in the home of addiction, and like I was talking with one of my nephews. I never got a revolt against my dad. He wasn't there.
Right.
And mom was picking up the slack. So I was the kid that kind of filled some gaps in different roles in a lot of ways. And I don't mean that in a way that my mom assigned it to me or something, right, or that there was some sort of emotional incest of some kind. I choosingly took that role. So I kind of came to my substance use addiction a little bit later in life. And I think it's just interesting, we if we don't have purpose, we're going to go towards pleasure.
Of course.
And so when it's a part of these games and this learning process, and you have no purpose, so you're not an athlete training, you're not a scholar training, you're not a tradesman training, whatever it is to kind of move through your field. Where's the rest of the play going to go?
Right.
Towards pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it is.
It's the looking good for that, someone that you want to attract, or all these things that's where your focus goes, and feeling good in whatever way. How many young people, it's like they do something they hate, they have no path towards anything they want to do with purpose, and they live for the weekend.
Right.
I mean, how many songs have been written about
the weekend? Yeah.
So, here we are now, this is ultimate high, lasts about 3 hours, whatever bullshit they're sold on.
Right.
It's not. There's nothing good about this, but yeah, I can see how they could be sold on it.
Sure. I do too. Well, and I also think too that there's no definitive, at least in what we do, there's no definitive answers. And what I mean by that is, again, I had another conversation today with somebody that's in law enforcement that, and this is the first time I've heard this from somebody in law enforcement. We have got to be giving these parents some answers. We're not giving enough answers. And what that told me was we're doing our job. We do it well, but we're giving the same story. Again, the story is important, but we're not giving direct answers to these parents. And that means, God, I hope this makes sense. Nobody's giving anybody the right answers. Sacramento's not giving the right answers. There are some of us, and I'm not going to sit here and say I'm the only one giving the right answers, because that's not true. There are people out there, but there's not enough of us out there. We have a tendency to focus on one thing, and even with these kids, I do think if we could give these kids an answer, a legitimate, concrete answer, which sometimes I believe we're giving, they're just not listening. But if we can give a legitimate, concrete answer to the parent, maybe. But then again, when we give that answer, we better make sure that we're backing it up and able to provide not only the answer but the solution to the problem. Again, an answer is separate, the solution is separate, but we've got to be able to give that solution once we answer the question correctly. Does that make sense?
It does, because when I'm hearing you say it, I'm thinking, oh, this is positive, and that the mindset of parents is shifting towards what is our solution here?
Yeah.
What is it we can do? Which to me is encouraged, and that's parent engagement.
Right.
Parents really caring.
Take the parent that lost a child to this. They have no answers. These parents, whether they lost their child a year ago, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, they still don't have any answers to this. They're left in limbo. People are being left in limbo. When the answers and the solution Again, I have to define solution, right? Solution is one thing. A cure is another. Those are two separate issues. But there is somewhat of a solution here, but nobody's working to do that. Again, I hope that makes sense. The people that I'm surrounded with, and some of them are great people. Some of them are the folks in Sacramento that are just jackasses, are not giving any solutions whatsoever.
Yeah. No, it makes perfect sense. I mean, how do we take any disenfranchised individual that has no desire to connect, be connected, or even the skill sets to connect, let alone if there's some underlying mental health things, depression, anxiety, the list can go on and on and on. It's hard to engage them. It's hard to help anyone at any point that is struggling go, you have purpose, but you're going to have to fight for it and do that work, especially in the day and age where we have so many things that are saying, makes it easier on you, more convenient. The advertising we're faced with now is brilliant. They get you in every way possible. And when it's a simple, what they think is a solution, here you go, you get a nod out for 3 hours or whatever it is, can be pretty enticing. And as you know, and we've talked about, these opioids are no freaking joke, people. Like, they shift quickly to addiction.
And it's almost instantly.
Yeah. It took me years and years and years to drink into alcoholism.
Right.
But we're seeing these kids, give it 2-3 months.
Yeah, right.
With fentanyl.
Right. This is faster than that.
Yeah, or the benzo dopes. And now you're getting a benzodiazepine and fentanyl at the same time. Which, we can lose you pretty damn quick. And I don't just mean to death.
Right. Well, and the other problem, of course, you mentioned the mental health side to this thing. And look, man, when I'm watching these videos, when I'm watching what's going on in these cities around the country, including Fresno, this all to me transcends mental health. I think the majority of these folks, wow, this is hard for me to even say. I think they're lost. I really do. I think they're lost. I don't think that the majority of them are ever going to be able to come back. And that's sad, because we have wasted so much time in putting a decent mental health system into place that when you mix the mental health with the substance, that there is a point where you don't return from it. And I'm sorry, when I see a 50-year-old on the street, now I've seen miracles too, but those are far and few between. They really are far and few between. And I'm not saying we just have to take those folks and lock them up somewhere, or ship them to an island. That's not what I'm saying. But we better start focusing on the generation that's here, the generation that's behind us. Because if we don't, now we're going to have 2 more generations that are going to be just taking over for this older one that's out there. And now every city is going to be like a San Francisco. I mean, that's how I see it. I know that's pretty doom and gloom, but what, like I said, when I watch this stuff and I'm watching how they're acting and how they're reacting and their thinking process, and I mean, it was so hard for me to come back, and I wasn't even near that point. I wasn't even near that point. I wasn't out on the streets. I wasn't crapping in my pants on a street corner somewhere. I wasn't scrounging through garbage for food. None of those things. I don't know how we bring somebody back from that. And obviously it's never going to happen with the current system we're in now. I just don't think we're going to be able to do it. And again, I don't have any answers for that one.
Sins of the father, right?
Always.
From generation to generation.
Always.
To generation.
Always.
If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, please call Parents and Addicts in Need at 559-579-1551 or check us out online at painnonprofit.org. Follow us on social media at Pain Nonprofit. Please subscribe to the podcast and share with others wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. To donate, please click the link in the description and help us save more lives gripped by addiction.
Yeah, certain things just impact people differently.
Of course.
Yeah, my dad, a funny thing, we had talked about this. I was up visiting him, and, my dad, I think you and him have about the same time of recovery under your belts. And he's like, did I ever show you my draft card? And I was like, no, I didn't even know you were up for the draft. He's like, oh yeah, war ended right before my number got called.
Yeah. Yeah.
So many different people. And so, again, I didn't mean to get off now.
Right. No. It was a good point.
Generational trauma. If we look at, Chicago, the things, there's constant shootings every day, all these different things that just either make people isolate, drive them indoors.
And by the way, you're right.
Yeah. Don't allow connectivity, huge divide because there's, not conversation. And so many people do it in the keyboard warrior space.
Or poor me.
Yeah. Or the victimhood or the remainder of victimhood. And we seem to have a culture and society many times that's supportive of that victimhood.
Absolutely.
So then where are you ever going to find coping mechanisms?
Right. You're not.
Yeah. As long as you can sit and be a victim and blame everyone else. And I'm not taking away from things that really do occur. You and I both went things in our childhood.
Yep.
That occurred.
Yep.
Were out of our control that we expected to be protected and we weren't. So I'm not discounting that, but I'm talking about when we roll it into adulthood and don't accept that. And everything that happens is our fault,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's hard, some people might get pissed off. Well, my loved one was driving at night and got hit by a drunk driver. Look, I understand that. That is still a situation.
It's a big deal.
But they were out at night driving, and these are the things that occur. And it's terrible reality of being in this world.
Yeah, so. Exactly.
Anyways, back to these Lazarus parties. We did one of our wonderful tangents. This is how we talk all the time, just so people know. But I think you're right that people just with this are not understanding the addict's brain. That desire for escapism and everything else.
And I've said it before, there are worse things than death in addiction. The addiction itself is, to me, is worse than death. Death is a freedom. Death means I don't have to go through this anymore. And a lot of us have been in that position where that's exactly what we thought. And again, I think that's with some of the people that are discounting this. These are some of the things. And again, I'm not saying that we want to die. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just going to repeat it. What I'm saying is there are things worse than death. And living in a nightmare of addiction, the routine of addiction, which includes everything, just what we mentioned, from not having a place to sleep, not having a place to go to the bathroom, not having enough to eat, not having a roof over our head.
Broke all mental and emotional bonds that you could possibly have.
Gone.
It's out the window.
Gone. Right? Death seems pretty sweet.
Yeah.
At that point.
Well, and I think you bring up that's so valid, because we talk about, and one of my things that I definitely recognize, and when I talk to younger people is, if you don't have purpose, you're going to seek pleasure.
Yeah.
Well, then the reality is that pleasure seeking then becomes your sole purpose. And there's no joy in that anymore.
There isn't. Ask every single addict. Ask every single addict out there, or that has ever been, that pleasure seeking in the drug lasts about 6 months. And after that, there is nothing pleasurable about it at all. At all.
Because I can recollect, and you tell me there was the two sides of the brain fighting, the devil, the angel, whatever you want to call it, was, I don't want to lie again. I'm tired of lying. And then the other one was like, well, you know, you need to drink. You need to manipulate this situation to you know, get whatever that is.
Sure.
You know?
Oh yeah. There's definitely two sides, you know, to the whole mess. And that's why I said earlier, I think there's a lot of people out there that we are just not going to be able to bring back from this, because at some point, we'll just use the devil as the example. The devil's going to win. Devil's going to win, and it's a damn shame, you know. But
if you had a parent ask you for a solution, let's say they went, Flindt, found out through my kids' text messages, they went to this Lazarus party. I looked up what it is. I found out what it is. You know, what might be my approach in talking to them about it?
Look, as a parent, all you're going to be able to do is tell them what you know. You're the only thing you're going to be able to say is, I love you and I don't want to lose you. Because I still am a firm believer that these kids are going to go, sure, mom, yes, dad, thank you for saying that. And then they're going to go do their thing. That's an extremely difficult question. And it's even and even the answer is not, I don't even know if I can give a right answer on what a parent says to that. I think a lot of this, God, is a crapshoot. Everybody was born with a brain, and I can only pray that these kids use it. You know, I hope that these kids feel enough love from their parents that they will listen to their parents. But Jason, we all know that the majority, I don't want to say majority, there's a lot of parents out there that will not talk to their kids about this stuff because they simply don't believe their kid is going to do this. And until we can get that message across, that every kid is susceptible to this, it's all one big crapshoot. I don't know what else to say on it.
Yeah.
We can beg and plead and scream and holler and yell and do and shout it from the mountaintops. But if nobody's going to listen to the message, then they have nobody but to blame but themselves.
Yeah.
Just a personal side note. Or you can just tie your kid to the bed. You know, feed them water and a loaf of bread. There you go.
We don't recommend that.
No, we don't. No, we don't.
Yeah, it's hard to guide them into competency.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, that's the you know, personal stuff going on is the conversation of being told I don't protect. I go, no, you're right. I help aid in competency.
Mm-hmm.
So don't tell me I'm parenting wrong. Do I make mistakes as a parent? Heck yeah.
Of course.
I'm not a perfect person. I don't strive to be on any level.
Right.
I own it when I made a mistake, but yeah, competency. And that's hopefully what we can achieve is it, you know, help that developing brain understand action and consequence.
Yep.
Mr. Andersen, anything else?
I don't know, man. No.
Right, we need to go have a cup of coffee.
Yeah, I need to. Yeah, exactly. Well, again, thanks, man. I mean, we just got to. We'll just continue to do our thing, and continue to spread the message as much as we can and hope for the best, and hope people listen. So there it is.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for listening or watching on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and the bell so you get an alert every time we post new content. Of course, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, please subscribe there as well. Of course, you can watch the video content on Spotify also. Hit that subscribe, leave us a review, and please share and tell other people.
If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, please call Parents and Addicts in Need at 559-579-1551 or check us out online at painnonprofit.org. Follow us on social media at Pain Nonprofit. Please subscribe to the podcast and share with others wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. To donate, please click the link in the description and help us save more lives gripped by addiction.